All right, everybody, it's official. We've gotten fan mail for months now, clamoring for the return of FranchisOR Bust Season 3. And you may notice something different. This is our first in-studio event that we're doing, and we could not be more excited to kick Season 3 off and our first kind of entry into having a interaction here in person with somebody. With Elite Franchise Capital, we got John, we got Rob. These guys are absolute geniuses when it comes to the approach they've taken in the franchise space. It's unique, it's interesting, and I'm really excited for everybody to hear what they have to say and learn a little bit more about what they do. So, John, Rob, excited to have you.
Thanks, Trevor.
Yeah.
Appreciate being here and being the first guest in studio.
I love it. Well, it's going to be, it's going to be a wild ride. So get ready out there, fans. We're in for a treat. All right, so guys, obviously this podcast is all about the world of franchising and how we can really help people understand just more about what you guys do and the opportunities therein. So to kind of get started there, let's just learn maybe a little bit about you first, and then we'll dive into Elite Franchise Capital. So Rob, maybe you kick us off. Tell us a little about your background and what got you into franchising.
So I started in franchising in '97 with Quiznos. That started after, the simple story is I was at a show looking to buy another business or start another business, went to the Javits Center in New York, and didn't really like anything after several hours, got to the last row, the last table, and there was a concept handing out sandwiches. And I'm like, okay, I'm tired. I want to sit down and I'm hungry. So that's how I got into Quiznos. I sat down, looked at a paper, saw franchisee and area developer, kind of knew what a franchisee was, didn't know what an area developer was. So to get another sandwich and to rest 5 more minutes, I asked them. That's why I'm here today. Because of that paper, I started in Quiznos, then went on to a concept called Hurricane Grill and Wings. I'm currently an owner of 2 Hand and Stone spas. And so it's 26 years in franchising now.
Needless to say, a lot of good experience.
Yep.
John, what about you?
I got into franchising around 2012, 2013. Started with European Wax Center. I was working as an electrician at the time, right out of high school and college. And I was just having dinner with a good friend of mine. Him and his family were heavily involved in European Wax Center and Massage Envy. Just kind of piqued my interest and started the process, and here I am.
From food to waxing, these guys got it all covered.
Right.
And really I'm sure you guys agree, the concept itself, while important, really it's the nuts and bolts of just understanding what it's like to be a franchisee, to work inside of a system. What does that mean? How do you grow? How do you, achieve success? And I think what's so exciting for you guys, exciting for folks who potentially want to learn more about what you do at Elite Franchise Capital is you have that experience, you understand it, and now you're setting people up on a kind of a unique path to success when it comes to the franchise space. So let's delve into that a little bit. Talk a little bit about Elite Franchise Capital and kind of what the core principles are there, what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, Trevor, that's really important that you said that, because while we're technically private equity, we're 5 development guys. There's 5 of us in this. There's John, myself, Stephen Nash, John Raymond, and James Bull. And all of us have owned franchises. And John and I have been area developers. We know what it's like to develop. And we thought 2.5 years ago.
Maybe like 3 now.
Yeah.
It's been...
we were helping James Bull, who's the president of Grassi Franchise Accounting, vet concepts for his clients. He had asked us some help doing that. And along the way, had an epiphany about some stuff that he did in the past. As I said, I'd done some stuff with Quiznos, and I got a peek under the tent because they asked me to help do the dog and pony show when they were looking to have a liquidity event. I got to see what the multiples were for a franchisor. And I was like, wow, franchisees, look, can make really good money. But a franchisor is where the real money was at. And As a franchisee, no matter when you got into the game, if you didn't own equity in the franchisor, you got zero at the liquidity event. So I didn't know what it was called, but the second time I did this with Hurricane, I said, look, I'll help you build national development, but I want a piece of the pie, whatever I help you develop. Turns out that's called tag along. And that was the seed that took 10 years to grow when we all came together. And it was simply saying, hey, we have a really good idea. Why don't we match up with franchisors what they need the most? That's development with successful franchisees, and matching franchisees with what they can't get on their own, and that's tag along rights or equity within the franchisor. So what we do is we match them together the first time ever. And then as John and I found out, it's like all the people that wanted to invest in us are really successful franchisees, right? And anybody who knows PE, you have general partners, which we are, and then you have limited partners. We looked at it and said, we don't want these guys being limited. They have hundreds of years cumulative of franchise knowledge. And so we're like, hey, help us, because ultimately it helps everybody. So for the first time, we think we have done something that's really unique. We've aligned franchisors, franchisees, and investors all trying to do the same thing, and that's get the franchisor to a liquidity event with the highest multiple possible.
Wow, that's really cool. I wonder, I wonder if uh, there is, a segment of the franchise space that's probably hearing this right now, going, "Oh man, I I wanted to be a part of that," or like, I wish I would have known that, a while back. So, how are you guys kind of broaching and getting the word out and helping people understand this is possible because it's not normal. Fair to say, right? This
It
is
is
not
not.
the
No,
typical and normal way to go.
that's what we like to say. We're private equity, but we're the opposite of private equity because most private equity comes into brands. They're going to want to take a majority when you're at your lowest valuation, and you're still left with the position where you need to find franchisees. So that's how we're unique. Like Rob said, we're bringing the franchisees who are experienced, exited other brands before, know what they're doing, into a new brand, and now giving them a piece of the pie on the backside when they exit.
Talk about the value add of bringing in an experienced franchisee versus just a brand new person to the game, and in particular when you're an emerging brand, because I believe that's mostly the space you're playing in is
Correct.
so. And an emerging brand is call it 1 to 50 or even 100 or so locations that can be considered emerging. So what is the real benefit to the franchisor to get an experienced franchisee?
What the biggest struggle for franchisors getting started is capital, right? So when you bring on a inexperienced franchisee, you don't have the support staff to support them and help them get up to speed and learn everything they need to learn. And the franchisor is the one who has to spend all the time doing that when they could be out growing the brand, growing sales, focusing on other aspects instead of holding someone's hand.
Yeah, so to tag along on that, so we like using the word tag along. Um, when you have somebody that's done it and been successful, like people make business really complicated, and it's not. Business is revenue, expense, profit, right? Our franchisees, if they've been successful, it's just how do I learn the new service or new widget? And then they can replicate what they've done before. They know how to build, they know how to manage, hire, fire, all of those things. So now you're bringing in people that you're lowering the risk profile for emerging brand. An emerging brand in and of itself is risky because they've not expanded, right? So every time you open a new location, it's a risky endeavor. But you multiply that with a first time franchisee. Now you don't know, was it the site, the concept, or the person. With our guys, you have more assurance and you lower the risk profile because it's most likely not going to be them why it didn't happen. Two is when you're bringing them into the system, a really good franchisee or a really good prospect is going to ask a lot of questions. So it goes to what John said. An emerging brand doesn't have a lot of support. They might tell you they do, but they don't have a lot on the backside. But a really good prospect's going to ask a lot of questions. Well, that takes a lot of support. Our guys will go through the training, they'll learn it, but then they'll probably help solve more problems than questions they ask. So they're an added value. We don't want an EFC to be more than 20% of a brand. That means the franchisor itself, excuse me, needs to develop 80%. How do you go out finding them? You need resources to do it, right? And so our guys don't absorb those resources. They allow the franchisor to do it. But the best part of the whole thing is you go out there, it's all about validation. You have John out there validating for a new brand. He's done 15 European wax, a bunch of kids strong. And you say, hey, top sales steamer, you got to come into this brand. By the way, that's one of our brands. And he has so much validity behind that. And so that helps supercharge development all the way through.
So the value prop it seems fantastic on both sides. The franchisor gets what they need most, and that is kicked off the ground quickly, experienced franchisees while they can kind of still operate in that startup mode and not have to, like you say, have a mass amount of capital and support going on. And then obviously on the franchisee side, like you mentioned earlier, they get the benefit of, hey, if I not only make good on where I'm at my location and hopefully develop more locations and be a strong member of the brand, I'm going to do well just because of that. But also, I'm bought in, and maybe talk a little bit about the difference you've been seeing so far with a franchisee who is actually bought in under your system versus just a franchisee who buys a location.
Just one more point, real quick. Our franchisees also get discounted royalties for the first year because we want to spur development quicker, and they get 50% off the franchise fee.
Oh, wow.
And on top of that, the franchisor also gets the 5 GPs as advisors and consultants, as well as all of our LPs who all have, like Rob said, over 100 years of experience in the franchising space. So it's an additional resource for the franchisor as well.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. And then on the like I was saying, on the kind of the franchisee enthusiasm side, if you will, how have you seen that play out, given that they're bought in?
Well, they're bought in for all the reasons that we just said, right? Most people go in and they're like, they want to help the system. They're team players. But now they're incentivized even more, right? Because they know if they're helping, they're actually increasing their amount that they can make at the back end of it, right? And the franchisor welcomes it. Sometimes there is some butting heads, franchisor, franchisee, because it's just the nature of the business. But in this, because our guys have access to the C-suite through us, they understand they're going to hear the rationale from the franchisor, from the CEOs. Why are they doing something? They get a say at the table as to why it might not come to fruition what they want, but they understand it. And so now everybody's bought in.
Yeah. So rather than potentially becoming a rogue franchisee because you don't agree with the franchisor, you're aligned. So you get to understand the thought process behind the franchisor. And it is in your best interest to not only have a very successful franchise location, but to also allow the franchisor to be very successful.
It's almost as if you guys have been around the franchise space for a while, because some of these issues are prevalent, and
every brand you go to.
That's right. Every brand has a little bit of that disconnect, and so it's fascinating to me that you guys have pinpointed and honed in on really 2 or 3 kind of like major keystone issues inside of franchise brands. Number one, hey, I just got started, I want to succeed. How do I get there? Covering that. Number 2, I'm a franchisee. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm trying to get in there, but we got you covered. We know what they're doing. And then, kind of to your last point there a little bit, there's such a synergy of infrastructure and help that goes on now, and a communal kind of bond. Any business owner, myself included, we would love to believe that everybody who's kind of on the team, if you will, and in the franchise system, you've got the ZOR and the Z's, and they're supposed to be on the same team. That is not how it always works in any
No, it's
business.
not.
So solving that's really interesting. Talk a little bit then about kind of what who would be your so experienced franchisees, emerging franchisors. You were mentioning a minute ago about some of the economic benefits, the royalty discounts, and things like that. Anything else that you see kind of moving forward, or any other ideas you guys have in this space that you're looking to advance as you kind of go forward with this plan that you have?
So we're also focusing on not just experienced multi-unit franchisees, but they all had their teams beneath them. They had their A players, their regional managers, their general managers. So some of them may not want to operate another franchise concept, but they can say, hey, maybe they back their GM or their regional GM, give them some sweat equity, and now it allows the people that help them get to where they are take the next leap in their careers and their lives. So there's multifaceted ways that we approach this.
Piggybacking on that, we're looking at experienced entrepreneurs, business people.
The mindset.
We have, as we keep saying, hundreds of years cumulative between the 18 investors, the 5 GPs. We know the franchise sector. We need successful entrepreneurs, business people that know what it takes, right, to run with the knowledge, and then pairing them with the emerging brands. That's another benefit that we realized. We came up with this idea, but it keeps morphing. Trevor, off of what you said, like we've all done this. So we're looking at it from both sides. As a franchisor, what do they need? How do we help them? Because only 17% of franchisors get to above 100. And one of the biggest reasons they don't get there is not because they're not good people, they don't have a good concept, is they make mistakes that take time and money to get past, and they lose that ability to get past those roadblocks. We help them and say, hey, we understand why you're thinking about doing this, but let's show you what it's going to look like 3 years from now and why you shouldn't. And that saves them time. And even with franchisees that are successful, when you're a business person, as I'm sure you know, you're sitting at the top, it's lonely. You're supposed to come up with all these ideas, and you're like, sometimes you're just winging it. You're like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I can't show the other people I don't know what I'm doing because they're looking at me. We're their safe haven for both franchisor and franchisee. They could come to us and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And so we could act as mentors and coaches or whatever you want to call it and say, hey, let's brainstorm. This is safe. Nobody's going to judge you. We're just all aligned to come up with the best outcome. So when you put all that together, it is a really unique, because it's helping each part of it.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of lip service that can be paid oftentimes to like, hey, we're your equity partners, and we're doing this, we're doing that. But you all, Elite Franchise Capital, is the first group I've ever heard of, anyways, that is bringing the synergistic outcome of success to all phases. And it's really interesting. You mentioned, even down to like some of the general manager level, or folks like that who you want to bring them and lift them up too. And that really comes from, I think, anyways, really comes from an understanding of yes, you want an entrepreneur. You want an entrepreneur to get in there and be a business owner. Entrepreneurs a lot of times don't make things happen on day to day. So talk about that a little bit, maybe just what that means.
Yeah, the regionals, the GMs, like we all had help getting here. I didn't own 15 European wax. I didn't do it all by myself. There's no way. I had, my wife ran all the day-to-day operations, and we had a team beneath her. And it was all those people collectively that helped get us success. So now, when we're looking for those people, they're still young, they're hungry, they want to take that next step in their life. And here is an opportunity for them to do that.
Yeah. And there's so many aspects, and we can go on forever, right? There's so many aspects of what it takes to be a successful brand. But, the franchisee, I think, having a fundamental understanding that this isn't a set it and forget it. You don't just show up and go, well, this already exists. What do I have to do? But really approaching it, Rob, like you said, like, no, I am an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner. I have to approach it this way. So getting those seasoned veterans that already know that, is really a great kickstart. And then the infrastructure and support behind it. So, I mean, for a franchisor, I don't see the downside.
There, there isn't. And to that point, we take 100% of the risk. John alluded to it earlier, but being very specific, we get our money only at a liquidity event, only on what we actually delivered. In franchising, there's something called SNO, sold but not open. Brands sell all the time. Very rarely do they complete that development schedule, right? That's just potential. We only get paid on what's actually occurred. And we don't actually have equity. So we're not taking any control away from the franchisor. So the burden falls on us and the risk falls on us to have to deliver. So we're going to do everything we can, because otherwise all we did is give free consulting.
Yeah. So, you know, piggybacking off of that, like we're paid, our tag along rights are paid based on what percentage our developers under our fund is of the franchisor's royalty stream at the exit. So say we're 10% of their royalty stream, we're going to get 10% of the purchase price. So again, like Rob said, we don't get paid if we don't deliver. So that's how it is riskier for us on this side versus most private equity. They're just going to come in, they're going to buy the equity, they're getting a percentage of the royalty stream, because that's how they're protected, because they have ownership. We don't want to be the franchisor. We want to be your partner. We want to make sure everybody succeeds. And again, when the other route's going, what do? They go to FSOs, brokers, sell licenses. And again, they're still not seeing that license revenue. So they're still having those issues of liquidity, which is going to stunt their growth.
Well, and also when you go into FSOs and so forth, there are some good out there, but
there are.
For us, we're not just selling a franchise agreement. We're making sure that agreement turns to a location, turns into a really profitable location, turns into a really profitable system. That's how we're incentivized. Like anything else in business or in life, understand how somebody gets paid and you understand how they're incentivized. We're incentivized in this purposely to drive a franchisor to a liquidity event at the highest multiple. And the only way to do that is to get open stores at really high average unit volumes.
Yeah, and like Rob said before, snows, sold but not open. We don't want our people to be snows.
Yes.
That's why we're, helping them get there quickly and, open your first one. A year later, open 1 to 2 more. We want that development schedule and we want it accelerated.
Excellent. So we've established a couple of key things. One being that, man, this is a great opportunity for franchisors to have an experienced team, to have folks who are bought in, to get experienced franchisees brought to the table, all the above. So if I'm a franchisor, I'm listening to this, I might be thinking, well, how do I use you guys? I mean, what do I do? Well, I've only got 50 or I've got 30 locations. Is that okay? Can I call you? Or like, what's kind of your ideal if you said, hey, this is who we can help the most. This is the range.
I don't know if there's a specific range. So as Rob alluded to before, Top Sale Steamer is one of our concepts. They have 5, 6 locations.
They're up to 9.
9 now, okay.
Yep.
But when we started talking, it was 5 or 6, all
exactly.
corporate owned. Second brand that we're partnered with is Scissors and Scotch, high-end men's grooming. They were at about 30 to 35 locations when we partnered with them. So there are a lot of franchise concepts out there. Like it's amazing how many there are. So for us, it comes down to, yes, concept matters, how much white space, but it's all about the leadership team, because we are partners with them. If we're not going to get along with them and we don't believe in them, then it's really not going to be a good fit.
Yeah, because we're taking such a big risk. As John, obviously the service, whatever the brand is, matters. We have to believe in it. We have to believe that it could be replicated and could get to 100, 200 locations. But we've all been in business long enough to know it's the people behind it. And we spend a lot of time vetting those people. Because we don't have controlling interests. So we're taking, again, a lot of risk. We want to know We want to break bread with them. We want to go through a process to really get to know them. That's the determining factor who we do this with. And we feel really good with the people that we've partnered with, and we want to continue that.
Awesome. Well, listen, John, Rob, it's been phenomenal getting to know a little bit more about your concept. This is unique. It's interesting. It's something that is a disruption, I think, in the space, and it's been really cool to learn about. Any final thoughts or words that you'd like to share that we haven't covered?
Just thanks for having us, Trevor. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. And for more information, just go to elitefranchisecapital.com.
Yep, Trevor, thank you. This has been great.
Absolutely. My pleasure. EliteFranchiseCapital.com. That's where to go. This was really interesting. John, Rob, we really appreciate it. I know that people are going to be wondering, when's the next FranchisOR Bust coming out? Don't worry. We have a full season scheduled for season 3, and you guys are going to be excited to learn more and more. And we'll see you on the next FranchisOR Bust.